I have a blog called From Scratch Fast, and really I built that into my primary business. And in 2022, I completely burned out. I got sick. I got really sick. It was inexplicable. No one knew what was going on. And it was a soul awakening because that blog was no longer nourishing me. That business that I had built, that I had become successful, was draining every ounce of essence out of me. So I took the first break I've ever taken from work in my life since I've been, since I started working at the age of 16. I took a summer off and I built a blog. So there's a lot of affiliate income that just comes in from that. When I needed the break, I needed to heal my body. That's when the download for Mind, Body, Spirit, Food came. And in fact, I had written that title down on my computer a year before. My husband said those words in a conversation. I wrote them on my computer. I stuck them on my desktop and I didn't look at it again. And then a year later, I was like, oh, wait, this is what I want to do. When I started this body of work, and in fact, I had started writing the book before this even happened, not knowing that would ever become the title or any of this. I was very intentional that I was going to change the way I ran this business. It was not going to look like anything I had done before. And so with this body of work, I have a weekly blueprint. Every week I have a blueprint of like my buckets: newsletter, podcast, book, or whatever. If events coming up, events might be. And I have the big bucket things that I like to get done that week. But I say like to because also part of this is that I am so rooted in trust that what is going to come forth is going to come forth. And then because this work is so heart driven for me, if I try to force it, it becomes mental. It's not the authentic expression that I'm hoping for. I can't have a heart to heart conversation with a podcast guest if I'm too mental about it. So yes, I have stuff on my calendar. I've got a tiny little team now, somebody who's helping me manage events. I've got somebody who edits my podcasts, somebody who updates that blog that still lives on. But I really try to allow, like particularly for the newsletter, that content has to come forth on its own, and I have to trust that it will. And it is the hardest thing I've ever had to do, to let go of control in this way, because I'm such a type A control person. But it's been a beautiful, beautiful learning, because I've seen that, yes, I've got my bucket list for the week. And
Mhm.
as long as that's there, I don't try to micromanage what every day is going to look like. I might have some idea of like, oh, today I'm going to shoot these recipes. But even last week, for instance, I went to shoot a bunch of recipes and my whole body said, nope, no, it's not right. It's not the right time. And I didn't. And then I did on Monday and it was super fun and it was the right time. So it's I guess, this balancing act between being organized and then also just allowing the flow, allowing myself to switch course and to jump into the river of where it's taking me, even if it's taking me in a direction that my mind did not want to take me in.
Mhm.
So this is my practice. This is not to say this maybe works for everybody, but this is certainly the way this work has to happen. And with the book, I could not write the book unless I was in that space of real connection. And I will add, another mindset shift that had to happen for me is that understanding that my spiritual work, that time for inner reflection and quiet, is I had to switch this perception, and I still have to remind myself of it. That is also quote unquote work. That is part of my workday. It's not separate from, it's not like work is this bucket and life is this bucket. They are one thing. And that part of the equation is probably the most important part, because unless I'm nourished and connected, none of this other stuff is going to come out with flow. I'm going to get burned out again. So it took a hard lesson for me to get here, and it's a constant work in progress and it's a constant practice. But when I do surrender to the flow, that's when I feel so fulfilled. And I feel like that's when I'm my most creative. And sorry, this is a very long answer. But Also, to understand that there will be seasons where the flow will come to a trickle. And I have
Yes,
to give myself the grace of knowing and now having the wisdom of looking back to trust that when it trickles, it's okay. It's okay to get quiet. It's okay to rest. It's okay to shut off of social media for a few weeks. It's okay. The inspiration and the flow will come back. It always has, it will come back. And that is just part of, the field has to go fallow sometimes to regenerate. So that's
absolutely.
a little bit of everything. I would say it feels like a dance. Each week is just a dance. Where am I? What needs to get done? What can wait? What am I authentically drawn towards? What is flowing right now? And then still honoring, the actual obligations, the podcast calls, the meetings, and all of those that we all have on our calendars. As much as we try to have an open calendar, that's impossible.